My name is Lydia Fusco, and I am the Kentucky Homesteading Coordinator and Domestic Adoption Supervisor for All Blessings International. I'm recording this presentation so that Kentucky families inquiring about our homesteading services can get to know a little about our agency and understand our homesteading process. Through my experience of working with adoptive families over the last 12 years, I know that families new to this process can feel overwhelmed and intimidated with all of the adoption information out there. So this film is my attempt to help new families feel informed and prepared about the steps we will follow in an adoption homesteading. This is basically the information I would give to a family making an initial call and seeking information, though in a much more detailed and thorough format. All families are welcome to call my office or email me for more information. And if setting up an in-person meeting to further discuss adoption or homesteading issues would be helpful to you, I'd encourage you to do so. So in this presentation, I cover what is the homesteading, why it's required, information about All Blessings International, how to start the homesteading, documents you will need, what to expect of homesteading interviews, home visit requirements in the state of Kentucky, what happens with the homesteading report, what's next, ABI family references. You'll notice I have included some pictures of All Blessings' beautiful kiddos throughout this presentation. I honestly couldn't resist showing off some of our beautiful babies and children. So, what's the homesteading? Most people, when they hear the words homesteading, think it's basically a visit to the house to see that where you live is good enough or safe enough to adopt a child. But the homesteading is actually much more than just that. The homesteading consists of a series of interviews with an adoption professional, usually a social worker, presentation of specific supporting documents, and I'll talk about those in a bit, training on adoption issues, a home visit to see that your house meets the state standards for adoption, and I'll explain those Kentucky requirements later in this discussion, a written report, usually about 12 to 15 pages, that details the findings of the interviews and supporting documents in a narrative format. And assuming the satisfactory completion of these steps, the homesteading would then conclude with an approval for adoption. So basically, the homesteading is a professional assessment process to see that adopted children have good, safe, loving families. Why are homesteadings required? Well, homesteadings are required by a number of entities. All adoptions in Kentucky, except adoptions by very close biological family members, such as a grandparent adoption, require a homesteading according to state regulation. Adoption laws are state laws, so the homesteading procedure and requirement somewhat varies among the states. Federal requirements also mandate that the adoption applicants must have a homesteading. In the case of international adoption, in order to have approval by Citizenship and Immigration Services, a homesteading must be done. And finally, homesteadings are required by many international entities. If you're thinking of adopting a child born overseas, the sending country will want to see your study and know that the child from their country will have a safe home. So again, the bottom line is that homesteadings see that the child is placed in a safe, loving, healthy home environment. And every child is worth that. Okay, so now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about All Blessings International. We were first licensed in Kentucky in 2002 as Kentucky Adoption Services, though when our services expanded outside of the state, our board renamed the agency All Blessings International. We are Hague accredited, which means our agency went through a very rigorous review process by the Council on Accreditation to see that our policies and procedures were ethical and in line with the requirements of the Hague Treaty on Intercountry Adoption. We're one of only a few agencies in the state that has reached this level of professional accreditation, and we're very proud of that recognition because we worked very hard to earn it. We have nonprofit status, which is a requirement for at least one international country of the homesteading agency. All Blessings is a Christian agency. Though we're not affiliated with a particular denomination, our staff members are representative of many faiths. Being a Christian agency to us means treating each individual we serve, regardless of their personal spirituality, with the compassion of Christ. Our staff is highly trained. 4 of our staff members have even completed the professional education in trust-based relational intervention. We have both domestic and international adoptive mothers on staff, so they really have been in your shoes when they were going through their own adoption processes. I think that the personal experience with adoption that many of our workers offer is a great benefit to both our ABI social work team, but also to the adoptive families that we serve. All Blessings is the creator of Adoption Training Program, a DVD and reading series on international adoption that meets adoptive parent education requirements that The Hague has in place. This program is now being used by adoptive parents and adoption agencies all over the United States and a few living abroad as well. Our agency is a member of the Kentucky Adoption Coalition and also the Joint Council on International Children's Services. In fact, we have a staff member currently serving as a JCICS caucus chair. We feel that our involvement in these professional groups is very important, as this helps us to stay most informed of changes and aware of new research that occurs in the adoption world. And although this presentation is geared to our Home City program, we also have many other programs, including domestic and international child placement from several countries, and a branch of the agency that's specifically dedicated to mission trips and humanitarian aid. And although we don't exactly advertise it, our Home City fees are among the lowest in the state, and we feel the services we provide are excellent. If you can't tell, we love what we do. Personally, I love my job. I'm so proud to work for an agency that provides such good services to children and families. And I think I can speak for all of our ABI team. The adoption services we provide is a calling for each of us. Our staff takes a strengths perspective in working with families. We want you to consider your adoption worker as a member of your adoption team, working with you, not against you, and welcoming a child through adoption. So now you might be asking, where do I start? Well, you first start by reaching out, maybe in an email or phone call. Perhaps you already called All Blessings and this is how you receive this film link. But most families will begin with making a first contact to our agency. Then you should do a little research and reflection. Maybe spend time in prayer, considering your options and deciding whether working with our agency or with a particular adoption program is the right path for you. And then you'll send in your application. If you received this video link in an email, the application was probably included as an attachment. But you could also find our preliminary application on our website, allblessings.org. After your preliminary application is approved, you will be emailed the Home City packet, usually within 48 hours. The Home City packet provides all of the forms, directions, lists, and questionnaires, pretty much everything you will need for your home study with All Blessings. And this super cute little guy is right. The home study is step 1 in any adoption. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that an important part of the home study process is presentation of certain supporting documents. You will need copies of birth, marriage, and divorce verifications as applicable to your family situation. If you've already adopted a child and are wanting to adopt again, we'll also need to have a copy of the adoption verification. The state requires that we have copies of driver's licenses on file for all licensed drivers in the home, and also a copy of your health insurance card. You will fill out a financial information form and provide a copy of certain financial documents or financial references depending on the program that you're pursuing. Everyone in the home must be in good health and free of infectious disease, and a physical or medical statement will need to be completed by a medical professional. Each adoption applicant and household member, depending on their ages, must also complete a series of criminal and child abuse clearances. If you do have an occasion of an arrest in the past, that does not necessarily mean you can't adopt. The situation will be very carefully considered, but it is very important that you be honest, open, and forthcoming about any criminal history. And you must also have character references from non-family members. For this, your references will receive a worksheet from All Blessings with a few questions to answer in return. Depending on your situation, there may be other documents to provide, but your adoption worker will explain and walk you through those very carefully. And you'll also need to fill out some paperwork regarding your childhood and adult experiences, marital relationships, and plan for parenting. So, for those of you that like paperwork, you will love the homesteading and adoption process. If paperwork's not your thing, well, we do at least provide you with a good checklist to keep track of everything that will be needed, so hopefully that would be helpful to you. And now let's talk about the homesteading interviews. During your interviews with an experienced adoption specialist, education will be provided about various topics on adoption according to the program that you've chosen, such as for international or domestic or older child or infant adoption. The applicants will meet both together and separately with the adoption case specialist. During the individual interviews, the adoption worker will speak with you about what your childhood was like, how your relationship with your parents was, what you like to do, how you were disciplined, how you met your spouse, what you like to do together, what have been your greatest challenges and successes in your marriage, how you expect your life to change after a child arrives, how you plan to parent the child you adopt, what your child care plans will be, and how you believe your family, friends, and communities will accept an adopted child, and so on. A home visit must also occur where your adoption worker will tour your home to see that the state standards for adoption and safety are met. In the next set of slides, I will go through the Kentucky House requirements carefully, but you'll also receive a list from All Blessings so you can prepare for your home visit before your adoption worker arrives. It's a requirement that all household members must be present for the home visit, and all household members over the age of 3 will also have to be interviewed. You will probably be nervous at first, but most really relax after just a few minutes of interacting with the adoption worker. And here the sweet baby girl says, "You have my attention, let's talk." I often hear families say that they learn as much about themselves as they did about adoption by going through the home study process. The home study can really be a valuable experience for self-reflection, and we hope and expect that by the end of the process you'll agree that it's been helpful. Okay, I have a lot of new families tell me that they really stress in preparing for the home visit because their house is not perfect. And I always say, you do not have to have the perfect house to adopt. Your adoption worker is looking to see that your home is safe and can accommodate a child. I promise she is not going to check for dust bunnies with her white gloves. Now, don't worry, you don't have to remember or write all of these down. We will give you a list of all of the current Kentucky home requirements in the home study packet. But the basic requirements for adoption approval in the state of Kentucky include having a smoke detector within 10 feet of each bedroom, a fire extinguisher on every level of your home. If your home uses gas, you also need to have a carbon monoxide detector. If you have firearms in your home, they must be locked. The state requires that ammunition must also be locked, and it must be stored separately from the firearms. Any potential safety concerns, such as a swimming pool, will have to have a good safety plan in place. Any hazardous materials, such as cleaning supplies, medications, etc., must be locked and inaccessible to a child. It's okay to put a child safety latch on the cabinets where these things are kept. You do need to have unexpired first aid supplies. It's fine to buy a simple first aid kit to meet this requirement. Your house should have adequate space to add a child. It should be relatively clean and in good repair, and your heating and ventilation must be in good working order. And your home should be in compliance with local water and sanitation requirements. Each child that you plan to adopt must have their own bed. If you're adopting a child under 1, the crib intended for the baby must meet the Consumer Product Safety Commission standards. That does not necessarily mean that a crib must be set up before the home visit. If you're planning to purchase a new crib when it's close to time for the baby to come, that's fine, because all new cribs meet the Consumer Product Safety Commission standards. So all you'd have to do is pick out a new crib online that you want to buy and provide the specs to your adoption worker. However, if you're going to use a hand-me-down or antique crib, it should be set up to see that the CPSC standards are met. We understand the home visit can be intimidating, but most homes are considered acceptable for adoption. And if there's a little issue that needs correction, such as installing a lock or buying a new first aid kit, that doesn't mean that you fail the home visit. All you'd have to do is take a picture and send it to your adoption worker once the correction has been made. And our All Blessings social work team agrees with this little guy, Colin, from Ethiopia. A loving home is a perfect home. So you might now be wondering, after the home study is complete, what happens with it? Well, that would depend on the adoption program that you're pursuing. Now, some watching this presentation may not know which direction their adoption path may ultimately go. But if you already know that you want to pursue domestic adoption or adoption of a child born within the United States, it might need to go to your child placement agency if you're not using All Blessings, or to attorneys involved in your adoption, or if you are matched with a child who lives or will be born in another state, it will need to be included in the packet of paperwork that goes for interstate adoptions. If you're going to adopt internationally, the home study will need to accompany your application to United States Citizenship and Immigration Services in order to have approval for international adoption. It will also need to go to the country that you plan to adopt from. And then if you're using an outside child placement agency, they will also need a copy of your report. All Blessings always gives a first draft to the adoptive parents for them to review because we want the home study to be as accurate and perfect for them as possible. And when the report is finalized, the adoptive parents also receive a final original copy. Okay, so hopefully all of this is now making sense. And how sweet is she? So now that I've explained the whole home study process with All Blessings, you might be wondering what happens next then in adoption. Well, for specifics and time frame, that will depend on the program you're choosing. But in general, if you adopt a child born overseas, you'll work on your immigration approval and dossier. The dossier is basically the documents that the child's country requires of adoption applicants. If you're adopting a child born in the United States through a private agency infant program, you will be then working on your adoption profile. The profile is a book of pictures and general information about your family to be shared with birth parents thinking of making an adoption plan. Now, don't worry about remembering all of this information. If you come through one of All Blessings international or domestic child placement programs, we will give you very careful directions and work with you closely through these processes. If you're using another agency's placement program, they will help you with these things. Next, you wait for the international child referral or match for domestic adoption with a birth mother. And then you would accept the referral or match, assuming that the information provided to your family looks good. A legal process would then occur either in the sending country or in the United States court system for the adoption to move forward. The child is then physically placed with the adoptive parents and arrives in their home. The actual adoption finalization would occur either before or after the child physically joins the family, depending on the program and the way the adoption is being done. And then after this happy arrival, post-placement or post-adoption visits and reports will happen, whereby your adoption worker comes again to your home to do more meetings with your family, provide support and knowledge of resources, and writes a report based on her observations. Some programs require lots of post-placement reports and some require only one or two. Let me tell you, our adoption caseworkers love seeing the babies and children in their adoptive families. It's probably the best part of what we do. And once these reports are done, your family's adoption file with our agency is then closed. So hopefully you're now excited and ready to get going with your adoption process. This will conclude my discussion of All Blessings Home Study Program. I hope this presentation has been helpful to you. Before a few adoptive family references scroll through, I'd like to say that, again, that you're most welcome to call me at our main office number or email me at lydia@allblessings.org to ask any questions or request additional information or schedule an in-person session to talk about the program further. As I've mentioned, All Blessings is here to help you, to partner with you on your journey by providing thorough education, support, and guidance as your family grows through adoption. Thank you for watching this film, and please accept our very best wishes for your growing family.